Hey all, welcome to Tech Talk. Today's episode is about Linux. Linux is an operating system, much like Windows or Mac OS. However, it's the kind of middle child that's not really talked about all that much. Firstly, what is an operating system? An operating system is essentially a software that allows for your hardware to communicate directly to you and your interface, and allows for different users to access your software as well, handle applications, manage profiles, and the list goes on. Linux as an operating system is a bit different than Windows or Mac OS. Windows and Mac OS are considered closed source operating systems, meaning that the code for that operating system is locked down by the company and they don't want any major changes made, especially being produced by users, because they want to make changes themselves and keep the integrity of their product. Linux differs for main two reasons in this point. One, it is lightweight, and two, it's open source. Now let's talk about the second one first. Open source means that anybody can edit the code. This means that there's all different kinds of varieties, including flavors of Linux, flavors being CentOS, Ubuntu, Kali Linux, Raspbian, the list goes on. Flavors essentially mean how the operating system just varies differently in the slightest from other versions, but does something maybe specifically better than its counterparts. While there are different flavors, the architecture of these operating systems varies just slightly. While there are different types of Linux that can be captured under these flavors, including Red Hat Linux, Debian, or Fedora, most of the time the commands are relatively similar and you can get a lot done in different types of flavors with only knowledge on one. Now, this won't make you an expert in all flavors, however, it will give you a baseline understanding. Once you get the hang of one, you can kind of understand and interpret the rest of them. Now, some people, when they hear Linux, think of the terminal. The terminal is essentially where all the magic can happen on the Linux operating system. Windows has something very similar called the command prompt or the command line, and you can do a lot from there, just as much as you can do in Linux. However, the commands aren't really as straightforward, and many people don't prefer using it just because the graphical user interface is so much easier to navigate. Linux, on the other hand, may not have a graphical user interface, or GUI, attached to it. That's the whole point of it being lightweight. And that gets me back to my first point. Linux is lightweight. Linux being lightweight means that there's no extra applications running in the background, no additional programs that run from a user perspective in the background, as well as having all the graphical user interface elements bogging down the system as a whole, costing performance, and in turn, costing money for companies who use Linux. This is where the terminal comes in handy. The terminal is able to interpret commands of the user just like a graphical user interface would. However, in this instance, the user can directly see output from a terminal screen instead of seeing pop-ups or windows come up like on a graphical user interface. Commands may be intimidating at first. However, I do want to run through a handful of them just so I can show you kind of how it looks. Alright, this is going to be our 1-minute quick tutorial on using Linux commands. This is a online Linux terminal found at Tutorials Point. It's free, you guys can access it for yourself and play around with some commands and maybe learn a few things as well on your own. First thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out what directory we're in. So we're going to do print working directory. This reveals we're in the /home/cg/root/blah blah blah directory. Usually it'll be /home/user on a normal Linux directory. And now I'm going to do a command where I want to make a new directory. In this directory, I'm just going to call it the temporary directory. So mkdir and then temp. And this is going to make a temporary directory for us, and I want to see this directory and just verify that it exists. So we're going to use ls, which lists all the directories I currently can see, and I see the temp directory pull up here. So now what I want to do is I want to change into that directory, and we're going to use cd to do so. Now what we're going to do is we're going to ls just to verify, yep, we are in that directory because there are no files that I have yet created. We are going to create a file now to populate this directory so we can take a look at it. We're going to use touch and then just name it whatever you like. I'll do file.txt, and that has been created. And when I do ls, I can see that file.txt has been created. All right, this is awesome. And now I'm going to put some text in this text file. To do this, I can use the echo command. There's a variety of other text editors that you can use, but for this, we're going to go simple. We're going to do echo, I love Linux, in quotations, I'm gonna do a greater than symbol into file.txt. Perfect. I love Linux is now in file.txt. And to see this, we can use the cat command. So we're going to cat file.txt, and we're gonna see I love Linux is in our file.txt. Now the real question begs, what do I care? Why as a consumer do I care about Linux, and do I really ever want to use it, or do I need to use it? The answer is really no, you don't need to use it as a consumer. Windows operating systems and Mac operating systems are fine. Linux is essentially a great piece of knowledge to have because many of the services you see today, like Amazon or eBay or Alibaba, all use Linux services to run their website. And while you don't see it at first on their page, behind the scenes is probably a Linux machine or a variety of Linux machines, like in a cluster or a Kubernetes engine, that are running all of the different services that they have and capturing all that data into a lightweight frame and being displayed back to a user on a web page no matter the operating system. And this is done through a variety of different integration methods. Maybe that'll be another video one day. I think that even if you don't understand it from a development perspective, you should still take a look and learn a little bit about it, just because it may be something that we all get comfortable with in the future. Maybe more development in Linux comes out that makes it way better to use than Windows. I don't think that'll come anytime soon. However, I am hopeful for the future of Linux, as I am somebody who does enjoy using it in their job and outside of it, as well as being able to play around with something different that isn't just the same old day in and day out routine of using a Windows operating system. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know this one may be a bit more technical, but I think it's good to sometimes explore those technical topics. Even if some of you in the audience may not be technical yourselves, you get to learn a little bit about what's out there, what makes my job and other people's jobs so unique and so different, and how we can all learn a thing or two just from understanding that this wide range of operating systems really houses a good majority of all of the applications that you see today on the internet. Thank you again for watching.